Amelia 2 years ago middle. 0 likes. I honestly don't even know where to begin. My husband, I believe, is also a sex addict. I have no idea how long this has been going on. Let me give you a little background. We have been married for 21 years and are a Christian family that has obviously struggled over the years and not been as committed to our faith as my guilt has proven over and over. We have owned our own business for the last 17 years and have worked together since day one. At times, for various reasons, I have worked from home. There have been many times that I have wanted to find another job to help supplement our income. To put it bluntly, I have felt like I have been in a controlling and manipulative marriage all these years. Not to mention, he is very selfish. In 2010 I had a one-time indiscretion of my own. The guilt at times was more than I could deal with. A year later in 2011 he found out and I admitted it. We went to counseling to get through it. I could never understand how easy it was for him to get over it. I told him that I would have left. While there is no excuse, I was lacking attention from him. He was always busy with one of our son's baseball teams that he coaches. He would always stay very late at the shop to write emails to the team because it was easier to concentrate. My best friend and I always had a suspicion that there was something not quite right with him. Something dark, for lack of better term. I would always brush that feeling off because he was a Christian man, a good father, and never gave me any reason to think he was doing anything out of line. He was up late on the computer all the time, but I never really thought much about it, sometimes until 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock in the morning. I go to bed early and rarely got up during the night. One night I woke up and he wasn't in bed. Something was nudging me to get out of bed and go see what he was doing. I walked quietly and opened the door. I caught him in the act while looking on a site of naked women. He quickly closed the web page out. Needless to say, I was devastated. At that point I didn't know what to say, so the conversation was short and I went to bed. The next morning I woke up fuming. He went to work and I started browsing his computer. The browser he was using was set to delete history upon exit. I looked on the internet and was able to find out how to try and pull up cookies. If anyone is curious, no matter what browser they are using, go to Internet Explorer and open Internet Options and go to Settings. It is right next to where it says Delete. I found there, where he had been on some dating sites and porn sites. Doing some more probing, I knew he had another email account because you have to set one up for your smartphone. I found that he had changed his password that I knew. One day while he was going out the door to baseball practice, I told him to give me his password. He didn't like it, but he reluctantly gave it to me. Once I got into his email, I found where another email account had. I also saw that he had signed up for some dating sites and had joined a support group called the Experience Project that covers many topics that people vent on. I was able to pull up a post that he wrote. The things in there were unbelievable. He vented about my indiscretion in very explicit detail and said he was having a hard time with it and it still bothered him. He also wrote where we didn't have sex enough for his liking and he has thought about finding a girlfriend. At that time I was ready to leave and be done. He tried to talk me out of it, mainly by making me feel guilty for splitting our family up. I couldn't believe this. He also played the "how you would feel if you saw me with another woman" card. He deleted both his email accounts and the dating sites. Which, by the way, he said he has never chatted with anyone or been unfaithful. I to this day have no idea if this is true or not. I told him he had to go to counseling and find a recovery group. The counseling lasted for a while, but the recovery group didn't last past 3 weeks. We quit going to counseling because I felt that he was remorseful and would never go there again. Isn't that what they all say? I decided to put a keylogger on his computer and his phone. I love the software and is well worth the money. It is also reasonable as well. Since then I have found where he has logged on to some inappropriate websites. While they aren't porn, they are his excuse for not looking at real women. Each time, I have confronted him by telling him I was able to look at the websites he was on even when he deleted them. He has never questioned me. He has since started using in private browsing. Each time I catch him he promises to never do it again and that he is sorry. He says he can go months without looking. I did make a rule that he had to be of the internet by 10 o'clock every night. While he will do it for a while, he always goes back to staying up later than his time limit, after I go to bed. I usually start to gain a little trust back by then, and what do you know, he will do it again. Each time I give him another chance. This last time he had gone 4 months. This past Saturday I left for about an hour with 2 of my children. One is in college so he wasn't home. The other was home but had a friend over so he was preoccupied. When I got home he wanted to have sex, which isn't abnormal. We usually do it about once a week. I know this has been an issue for him over the years and I do feel guilty about it, but most of the time I don't feel like it. Not to be too graphic, after we had sex, he wanted to go to the shop and work on his truck after he had been gone all day. I immediately thought that was odd and something didn't sit right with me. I told him he was acting funny, asked him what was going on. He said nothing. He just wanted to go get it done. I told him he didn't need to go that night. He then proceeded to tell me he would have to go the next day, which was a Sunday. Again, I thought it was strange. I told him I wanted to go to church. I knew then that he was feeling some sort of guilt. I know I have been there. You don't want to be around the person because it makes you feel too uncomfortable. I didn't sleep well that night so I slept in longer than usual. When I woke up, he was gone. We have cameras at the shop which we can view on the computer at home. I to look and there he was. I instantly got on my website and what do you know, he was on a website of a news anchor, which wasn't the first time viewing sexy pictures of her. If I were to guess, he was fantasizing and lusting after her body, and then when I came home had sex with me. I was thoroughly mortified to think he was fantasizing about her during sex. I wanted to throw up. He obviously has not been healed. I have not said anything and he knows something is wrong. At his point, I am beside myself. I want to be done and move on. The problem is I don't have another job and have no way to support myself or my children until I find another job, which is hard to come by these days. I don't know what to do. I am also worried about how it would affect my children. I am completely miserable. He makes me sick. This is most of my story. I am sorry I wrote a novel. I have been wanting to vent for a while and just worked up the courage. The only people that know are 2 of my friends and my counselor. I want to share this with my mom, but I'm afraid of what she will think. She is a godly woman and don't think she would judge me, but you never want to have your parents worry about your marriage and what they may think of my husband. Feel free to comment, but please make it constructive. Kim 2 years ago .0 likes. I'm more interested in knowing and understanding how to heal myself and never mind him already. What can I do to empower myself and my daughter that still has to spend time with him? He's not out of denial and thinks I'm just an angry person. Huh? And wow. Tells me that was so long ago and that he changed, coming up on 1 year this April. Barb 2 years ago .0 likes. I am new to this site. I hope that whatever I write your responses will be kind but constructive. I need help. I met my second husband and I met almost 7 years ago. Our relationship was rocky at first as I never really thought he was into me, and so I kept trying to break it off, but we would always get back together. He was and in many ways still is the kindest, loving man a woman could ever ask for. He is diplomatic, never gets angry, positive and a great dedicated father. A year after we were together, I found a text message from another woman who wanted to get together with him. A waitress from a different city he met while away on a business trip. He denied it, of course, unsure how she would think he was interested in him. I was naive, of course, as she had his number because he gave it to her. Things just got worse for us. I found him searching Craigslist under casual encounters, but he said he was just curious, like a fantasy. Then I found missing condoms, of which he denied not only to me but our counselors and family as well. Yet I still married him because he managed somehow to convince me that I was mistaken. Then finally one day I finally got him to admit it, but again it was just a fantasy. He would take the condoms with him but would never use them. At least once that I know he was telling the truth, as 2 condoms went missing but were returned when he came home. Then there was the porn he kept watching. He would tell me he still loved me and wanted to be with me and that he just did it because he was stressed and porn was a good release. As I said, I still married him and all 4 of our children became a blended family. They are all girls but they never got along, and my husband said the stress of the fighting and the behavioral challenges of my eldest daughter caused him so much stress. He says I never listen to what he really has to say or his feelings as I am so busy, and he feels he comes last. We have been to counseling many times, and a few years ago, in his own private session, a therapist suggested he may have a sex addiction. I kind of laughed actually, because after the first year of our relationship he doesn't ever get aroused and I am the one to initiate sex. He tells me I am still beautiful and that I arouse him emotionally. He just doesn't get aroused easily. After the therapist had told him about possibly being a sex addict, my husband gave me full access to every electronic he owned. We share email accounts. I have his work schedule and it's connected through his work program app, so I know where he is all the time. I also have Find My Phone and he allows me to look at his phone and computer whenever I want. Over the last 4 years I have found nothing to incriminate him except the fact that his private browsing is on most of the time, and that in itself is worrisome to me. He asked me how would I know this if I wasn't with him all the time to see his phone and computer. I pointed out in the Google history it shows numerous days or times of the month when no one is online. The only time my husband is not online is when he is sleeping or, in the case where the computer shows him being off, by him putting on private browsing. Then there is my biggest concern. His 2 eldest daughters are older now and have graduated and moved out to travel across Europe. My 2 teenage girls are still at home and we all live in a relatively small home. I am not the greatest housekeeper and honestly, at times there are clothes everywhere on laundry days. Our living room is close to the shoe and coat closet, and one day I found one of my oldest daughter's bra inside the coat of my husband's jacket. I was so stunned I didn't know what to say or think, so I guess I just brushed it off. But later when it all sunk in I asked my husband about it and he had no idea. He said he saw it there and didn't really think anything about it. I never asked my daughter, as I didn't want to concern her. Then, months later I found a Ziploc bag with a pair of my youngest daughter's underwear underneath the couch cushion. It was an old pair that I hadn't seen in years. She didn't know how it got there and neither did my husband. Perhaps she went on an overnight at a friend's and put them in there? But of course I thought of my husband. Then it occurred to me that it seemed as though my daughters were always losing their underwear. Were they just being disorganized, messy, or was it something else? I was and still am so full of fear. When I talked to my counselor, she didn't seem concerned and thought that because of past in being abused by an older brother, and in having an ex-husband who acted out sexually, that I may be reading into nothing. She asked me what my girls thought of my husband and if they are comfortable around him, and they are. He is a great stepdad, and although the internet isn't always right, according to all the info I read, he isn't a pedophile and doesn't come close to fitting the profile. My counselor and my friends, in all knowing our past challenges, say that I am worrying too much about the bra and underwear issue, that it could have been anything. In the past few months I have found one incident where a dating site came up on the history, to which my husband said he couldn't remember it popping up, but it definitely was only a pop-up advertisement. Then I found through the history that someone had Googled Hotmail. The history stopped after that. He has no idea how that got there. He denied any part of it, yet he and I are the only ones who use the internet and we have iPhones that share information. I don't know how it came about, but one day I was researching online about sexually acting out and the acts that my ex-husband committed came up. Some of the acts that he committed were criminal and the site I was visiting indicated the acts were done due to a sexual addiction. My ex-husband also was under suspicion for possibly committing an indecent act towards my daughter when she was 4 years old. No one really believed her though, and because she was never touched, nothing became of it. I couldn't trust him anymore, however, and divorced shortly after. Ever since reading that article, I know that my ex-husband fits the profile of a sex addict, but he behaved in a much different way than my new husband. I have been doing more and more research, and with my husband we have been seeking counseling with a sex therapist, both as a couple and separately. For the first time in my life, after pouring my heart out to her, she said, "You need to trust yourself." I asked her what she meant. She said, "Above all, trust yourself." My husband has admitted he has a problem, but the very same therapist also told him that while yes, he has sexually acted out, she does not believe in sex addiction. If she doesn't believe in that, then how can he get help? Of course, it's no surprise to any of you that I don't trust anything he says or does anymore. What I would really like is for him to move out. But we have agreed that for the meantime he will sleep downstairs in the family room basement. We will reevaluate our relationship in a year after we have both done intensive counseling. I have asked him to go to a different therapist who specializes in sexual issues and to attend once a week. I have also told him that until he can admit to his mistakes and give me full disclosure, I will not work on the relationship. He is worried that perhaps he has compartmentalized a lot of his actions and therefore doesn't remember them. I look back now and feel foolish. I set boundaries, but broke them. I wavered, didn't believe in myself, and instead was manipulated and deceived. I refuse to put any more energy into helping him, if that makes sense. I want to concentrate on my own issues and attend therapy. I will be here for him as a friend, but that is all. I need a man who can be real, healthy, and deal with his anger, resentment, and shame in an unhealthy way. Right now, I need to take care of myself and to set boundaries in my life. Above all, I need to believe in myself and trust my instincts. But my words, while appearing strong and positive, do not reflect the fear I feel, especially for that of my daughters. If it were just me, I would work through this with him, but if there is a possibility that it has involved him acting out sexually with my daughter's belongings, then I can't move on with him. I know he would never ever hurt them, but yet why do I feel so anxious? My children love him and trust him. Ella Hutchinson, LPC, 2 years ago. 0 likes. Barb, I do not think you are overreacting at all, and am quite surprised, given the information you shared here, that anyone else would accuse you overreacting. It is so important to trust your gut, your instinct, your intuition. Your gut is telling you something is not right here. Listen to it and take action accordingly. Marty, 2 years ago. 0 likes. I agree. I have recently found out that my husband is a SA as well. I'd love to hear recovery stories. All of these terrible stories are obviously true, and I'm well aware of the nightmare. I am so angry and feel such hatred towards the man I married. I was completely innocent and unaware to this whole thing, so it tore me apart. I figured I wasn't keeping him happy, because I's so skinny and have such small breasts. Oh well, he should have known not to marry me if that was the case. I would love to hear some stories of hope though, as I truly believe that all things are possible with Christ. At this point, it's my 4 sons and the Lord who are helping me through this, but I'm praying for healing and recovery. Ellen, 2 years ago. 0 likes. It would be nice to hear of some stories of recovery for sex addicts. I never really see any, and I am starting to think they cannot recover. They only learn to hide things better. Alice, 2 years ago. 0 likes. Thank you very much for sharing this. It has been very helpful to me. It is very powerful, people sharing their experiences. I think your gut instinct about a situation and how to act in that situation help us be happy in the future. If we allow ourselves to be convinced by someone else, we are forever doubtful. Cheryl, 2 years ago. 0 likes. Hi Barb, please trust your instincts about your daughter's missing clothing. My sex addict has admitted to stealing mine and my teenage granddaughter's panties and masturbating with them when we first started hanging out. He has also admitted to having a panty fetish and has been stealing women's panties, pantyhose and other personal items for masturbating for 30 years. He has also admitted to fantasizing about my teenage granddaughter while masturbating. I truly hope this is not the case in your situation. Best of luck to you. Annie 2 years ago. 0 likes. On July 18, 2013, I discovered that my husband was having an affair. We were married in 2006 and had our first child in 2010. At this time I was pregnant with our second child. 9 months pregnant, that is, 1 week before my due date. I felt completely devastated and lost. Here I am about to have a baby and I find out that he had been having an affair for close to a year. He initially claimed that he loved her and wanted to be with her. For my own sake and for the sake of my unborn child, I remained as calm as I possibly could, but the stream of tears was impossible to stop. I asked him what he wanted and he said he wanted me. I asked him to make a decision. If he wanted me, he had to stop seeing her. I had our baby 5 days later. Over the next 9 weeks I found out that he had been at first still texting her through a text app and then emailing her through an account he thought I didn't know about. He also resumed sleeping with her. He admitted to having unprotected sex with her, potentially putting not only me at risk, but our unborn child. After everything coming out about her, I questioned him about if there were others and at first he denied. It eventually came out that there were 2 other women that he slept with. One multiple times and the other just once. He admitted to me that he believed that he had a sexual addiction. It has also come to light that he was sexually abused by a minor female family member that he had never admitted to anyone. On one hand, I feel completely horrible for him that he had gone through such a trauma, and on the other hand I feel so completely depressed and traumatized by what has happened, and I am responsible for 2 small children. I am trying my best through the help of a marriage counselor, basic knowledge of psychology, books, and support of my husband to help me through this. This is the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life, and I've had my own share of dysfunction in my childhood and early adulthood. I find that not only do I not know who my husband is, I don't know who I am anymore. When I'm with him I'm okay, but when he is away from me I'm constantly suspicious, and that is not who I was before. I feel completely insecure. My home, family, and work lives are all suffering because even as hard as I try I'm barely keeping it all together. Only a handful of people know, and I can't really talk to them and tell them what's really going on because I honestly don't want them to worry so much about me. The truth of it is that I am worried about me. I can see the future and know it can be good. I'm just not sure how to get there. It is so hard right now. My only consolation right now is know that we are both clear of any STDs and that I am taking care of my children. That are not losing out on anything because of this situation. It's been extremely hard pretending everything is okay when your heart is shattered. Printer 2 years ago. 0 likes. I met my husband in 2007. I knew while we were dating that he liked porn. I got pregnant a few months into our relationship, but he was out of the country when I found out. He wasn't able to come back until 2011, when our son was 3, and we got married in 2012. After we got married I discovered that he continued to watch porn. He pretty much always did it behind my back, except one time when I needed to know more about what he was doing and asked him to show me some of the websites he visits. He did so with no problem. I wasn't happy about him watching porn, but I accepted it. After all, I knew about it before we married and I didn't expect him to change just because of me. Then last month, right after his birthday, I went to his Facebook site to see who had wished him a happy birthday. Instead of finding birthday wishes, I found that he has been friending a lot of sexy women who are obviously just online to be sexual. I assumed he was chatting, but had no way of knowing. I have put spyware on his computer and am gathering evidence so I can confront him. I need to get spyware on his phone, too, but I think he's about to get a new one, so I'm gonna wait until he does. I want to wait until after Christmas to confront him because we have some things going on, including a family trip that has already been paid for, and I don't want to disrupt things just yet, since I don't know how he'll react to me confronting him. In the meantime, I'm discovering that he is cybersexing. I only know about one woman for sure on that, and may have physically cheated on me. The jury is still out on that one. Assuming he doesn't just choose to leave when I confront him, I'm trying to figure out where I want to draw my boundaries and what I'm willing to accept, because I suspect he won't admit to having a sex addiction and will be unwilling to seek any help. Still, I won't know until the time comes. And in the meantime, I really need some support because I haven't really told anyone what's going on, and I can't just hold it all inside. Thanks for listening. Amanda 2 years ago .0 likes. I am so glad to find this forum. I am the wife of a sex addict. Just over a year ago, I was home with my oldest daughter. She wasn't feeling well. I guess it was what we call women's intuition, but something told me to look at my husband's laptop. Now, at this point I knew he looked at porn. I just assumed it was an occasional thing. That day I found out that it was much more than that. He was going to a site frequently and paying for women to put on sex shows for him. That explained why he suddenly stopped his credit card statement from coming to the house. I confronted him. He said he was sorry, and that he never meant to hurt me. I told him that if he wanted us to work things out, then the porn had to stop, and he had better come 100% clean about everything. He promised that there was nothing else, and that he was done with the porn. He even let me cancel his membership to that site for him. The next day, I could not shake this feeling that there was more. So, I did a little snooping and discovered that he had a membership to another porn site. I texted him and asked for his password. He gave me some BS about he didn't remember and that he would look at the site with me that evening if I wanted. Yeah, right. I managed to get logged into that porn site. It was basically an amateur porn sharing site. I refer to it as Facebook for perverts. What I found on that site shocked me to my core. I saw why he didn't want me to see what he had posted there. My husband of 10 years had posted intimate pictures of me. Some I had texted him, but most I had never even knew he had taken. I was horrified and humiliated. He told me how sorry he was and that he would do whatever it took to get us past this. He let me cancel his membership to that site too. I also found apps that he had downloaded to try to turn normal pictures of women into nude pictures. Eventually, things started to get back to normal, and things seemed better between us, or so I thought. He was acting strange again, so I decided to find out why. He had been watching sex videos posted on YouTube. YouTube? Really? I was ready to leave at this point. He begged me not to. He said that as much as he wanted to, no matter how hard he tried, he just couldn't seem to stop. He said he felt he had a problem and wanted to get help. I told I would support him, if he truly felt that way. The evening of his first session, I asked him if he wanted to tell me how it went. He did. My husband then proceeded to confide in me a secret he had been keeping for a decade, since right after we were first married. He had been raped while he was stationed in Florida. I was overseas on deployment at the time. I was speechless. He told me that he had just been too embarrassed and ashamed to ever tell anyone, even me. By working with the counselor, he has determined that the porn was a coping mechanism to deal with the trauma of the rape. Through counseling he is learning how to deal with that trauma, and I am learning to trust him again. Losing Ope 2 years ago .0 likes. My husband and I met in the beginning of 2011, and were married last September, 2012. He is the love of my life and my best friend. I hate to think of where I would be if I hadn't met him. We are approaching our 1-year anniversary, and I feel like I should be happy and excited, but my heart and mind are tired and hopeless. I feel defeated. We both share a love for the Lord and a desire to grow closer to Him. We go to church regularly and try to live our lives for Him. Unfortunately, Our marriage is plagued by my husband's addiction to pornography. There have been 5 instances, from back in the beginning of our relationship, where I have caught him, by either catching him in the act of watching pornography or stumbling over sites he's visited, or magazines he has hidden, and told him this time is the last time and that pornography will break us. We've gone to his parents for counsel, they are pastors. When we were engaged, this was fairly drastic, but it was the 3rd time I had caught him. I thought this would be the end of the problem. Then again I caught him while we were engaged. We met with another pastor, and again I trusted and believed he was done. I tried to tell him we needed more help to overcome it, and I continued to ask him throughout this first year of marriage if he still watched pornography, and he got upset, wondering why I didn't trust him. Last week while on his computer, I stumbled over pornography sites he had visited a week prior. I feel so lost, defeated, worthless. And I'm not sure where to go from here. He admits he needs help, and we both want to get help, but I don't even know where to start. I don't know how to heal from this. He stated that our intimacy problems are caused by me not being comfortable, which is why he turns to pornography. How can I be comfortable when I know that he is comparing me to the videos and images of women engaging in fake love, sex and intimacy that he watches online? I don't know how to recover from this wound that is so deep now. When we started dating, the wound was opened up. Since then, metaphorical band-aid after band-aid has been applied, but the wound is still there, and it's getting to the point where I don't know how we can heal. How can I trust and be comfortable with my husband when I don't match up to his addiction? It is tearing us apart, and I feel helpless. Hopeless. Where do I go from here? I can't bear the thought of living my life without him, but when is enough, finally enough? Pat 2 years ago. 0 likes. I feel for you. I too started my marriage off the same way. It is so hard. It took me 16 years of marriage to figure out that his porn use had nothing to do with me. Please don't give in to the excuses of him turning to porn is because of intimacy problems. If he didn't use that excuse, he will find another. I found out about my husband's porn use when we were dating. He convinced me that it wasn't a problem and it wouldn't happen again. I asked God to reveal to me if this was a problem. A couple of months later I caught him again. I work a 24-hour shift and stopped by home to grab some dinner. I caught him in the act again and asked him to be gone by the time I got home. When I arrived home that next morning, he proposed to me and asked me to be a part of his salvation, because he was going to change. I told him of my prayer to God. He felt God revealed his porn use to me so I could help him change. We attended 6 months of premarital counseling in which we both became celibate until we were married. My first year of marriage seemed to be going good, we were truly happy. Then my husband's porn use had returned. He got counseling from a deacon at our church. We too are Christians and attend church regularly, and his dad was a minister. His use didn't seem as often as your husband, or I didn't catch him or find out as often, but I tell you, it was at least once a year. One time he went a couple of years without the porn presenting itself. That particular time he was in a 12-step program. He stayed in that program till the group stopped meeting. We were very happy then. His attitude was better. There was a noticeable change in him. He made me feel special. The way you should feel from your spouse. But about 6 months after his group stopped meeting, his attitude started changing. I could go on and on. Each time we became happy, back came the porn. He would go to therapy after he's caught each time. Now I'm 22 years into this relationship, with 4 children, 4 grandchildren, and one of my grandchildren resides with us. People on the outside think we are the most wonderful couple. I've been told by someone that if my husband and I ever broke up, then they would know true love really don't exists. Don't get me wrong, we do have very happy and fulfilling times, but porn always surfaces and tears the relationship down. This is what I go through. Low self-esteem, not feeling like you are good enough for your spouse, feeling of never being able to please your spouse, trying to compete with the porn, depression, feeling worthless. You stop trusting. I get angry with him easily. I feel that he thinks my love for the Lord will keep me with him. Well, last month I caught him again. He told me he felt hopeless. He has given up his laptop, found another 12-step program and will start therapy next week. I don't know what to tell you. We Googled and found several 12-step programs in our area. He called our medical insurance and got a therapist. How long I'm gonna stay? I don't know. I'm trying to get healing for myself, but I've told him, he's got to make sure he is doing this for him. My youngest son and my grandchild keeps me holding on right now. Our other 3 children are adults. Try Googling SAT 12-step programs. See if he is willing to go. I pray for you. Kathy 2 years ago .0 likes. I feel your pain. I was married to a sex addict for 36 years. He proclaimed his love for me on a regular basis. He was one person with family and a totally different person when away from us. I lost all self-esteem. Each time he'd promise I'll never do anything to hurt you again, but he did, over and over. I built a wall so thick I thought nothing could ever get through it. I prayed for peace and understanding. His part ended when he died 12 days after being diagnosed with a brain tumor. My wall came tumbling down and all the feelings I had suppressed over the years overwhelmed me. I still struggle daily with my feelings 4 years after his death. I am still confused on how he could claim to love me and do the things he did. Seek the help I didn't. If your husband doesn't get help, I see you ending up like me, and I don't wish that on my worst enemy. Praying you find the peace you so deserve. Green Bin 2 years ago .0 likes. My husband and I met 10 years ago when I was a freshman in high school and he was a sophomore. A few months after meeting we started dating. He was my first boyfriend and I was his first girlfriend. Probably a year into the relationship I found porn magazines, but thought nothing of it. We were both young and in that experimental stage. I never thought that it would turn into the life-shattering problem that it has become. It has slowly progressed into him looking, saving and downloading porn 24/7. Anything and everything that he can find he saves. A few years ago I found a folder on our computer of pictures of people that we knew. None of the women were naked. But now things had escalated, the porn images online weren't enough. He had moved on to Facebook pictures that he could save of people that we know and hung out with. We were young and stupid and I thought it was a stage. I threatened to leave if I found it again, made him delete it all. A few years later I found it again. This time he had escalated into hacking into people's email addresses to see if they had sent any naked pictures or pictures in general. We went to therapy and I thought things were getting better. We have been married since May 2013 and a few weeks ago I found it all again. I know now that I was stupid to think it was a phase. I said that I couldn't be with someone who does this. He promised to delete all of it and get help. He claims that he is going to a 12-step program for help, but I can't trust him anymore. The pain is just so overwhelming that I have thought about ending life. I know that won't fix anything and that I can't do it. But how do you move forward with a cheating husband? I consider everything he has done cheating and I feel like he lies about everything. I feel so alone with this. I'm only 24. This shouldn't be how my life is. Please, someone help. Mar 2 years ago .0 likes. I can feel your pain and claim to have some understanding of what you are going through as I have coped it for years. No one was there to advise or help giving they haven't been through what I did. Please don't get trapped in this and think of yourself more than you think of the marriage and the children and anything else. Take care and focus on you so you don't lose your sanity. Bottom line is, if he is not admitting everything he has done and taking full responsibility of it, do not waste your time. My last advice is listen to your inner feelings about him and don't be fooled by your hopes and your imagination trying to convince yourself of something that is not true. Hurt and confused 2 years ago .0 likes. I read your story and felt the sting of the exact pain. I could almost deal with the porn, But then when I saw that he had moved to Facebook, everything felt completely different. He has completely shattered my self-image, my self-worth, everything. I am almost ashamed of myself. I wouldn't wish this pain on anyone. It's debilitating. Scotty's Rule 2 years ago. 0 likes. By the grace of God, I am alive to write this story. So many times I have planned to end my life over the last 3.5 years. I came home from a trip for work. I must have startled him even though I discussed my arrival the night before. I knew something was up. The next day, I heard a voice very quietly say check his computer. I argued back that I trusted my husband. 2 days later, the voice was yelling the command. I said alright, you are wrong and I can prove it. Turning on the computer that day began a horrible set of events in motion. In 2 days, I moved him out and emailed him what I found and the location of his new home. Within 6 weeks, I moved everything I owned into a rental house. Continuing to live in the house we were married in just made me nauseated. From that point until very recently, my life went down the tubes. I was diagnosed with a rare adrenal tumor and had surgery to remove one of my adrenals. I was diagnosed with a precancerous breast mass of a 4 out of 5 severity. I had to have that removed. I was so confused that I missed paying my car note and it was impounded at 3 in the morning. I lost 3 of my pets, my consulting company went down the tubes due to confusion and inability to concentrate, I could not pay my rent and had to move to another location very quickly. My depression felt like I was in a deep tunnel without any light. I was called to respond to a federal hearing concerning a company I had worked at years ago. I could not find notes, I could not think well and I would completely break down during my attorney's questioning. I lost all my jewelry and so many other things. I would put them places and never would remember where I put them. I would search for things for days and find them in the exact place I looked months later. My home was a complete mess. Disorganized, cluttered and minimally decorated. For 6 months all I did was walk to the bathroom to my bed. I rarely ate. I began having extreme endocrine problems all due to my stress. I lost most of my hair, would gain a lot of weight and then lose a lot of weight. Would sleep all the time or rarely sleep. My wonderful business was destroyed because of my trauma from what I found on February 16, 2010. I could not work, I could not follow up and I could not think clearly to finish my tasks. I only had my husband's health insurance and could not lose that nor pay a high COBRA amount. My husband fought treatment for over 2 years, went to group meetings and counseling for 3 months and then stopped. All the while I was going once a week to a counselor and monthly to a psychiatrist for the last 3 years. By January of this year, I began to see a little light in the tunnel. As the year has continued, the light has become brighter and I am nearing the outside edge of the tunnel. I will start a great new job next week and have my own insurance. By December, I will have quite a nice savings. I can see the crazy making more clearly at a distance. I can go home or not answer the phone when it begins. I am on the bright road to recovery. Someday soon, I will be back to my old self. I seriously doubted I would ever make it back. I am a survivor.